Hi, I'm Kathleen with the San Diego Artisan Bread School. Today we're going to do something fun and a little different. When you make sourdough bread, you end up with discard. When you feed your starter, and you can either discard it or save it. I save it. Most people like to save it. And there are things you can make with this. You can make pancakes, you can make coffee cake, you can make banana muffins. Today we're going to use our discard and we're going to make sourdough crackers. We're going to start with 200 grams of sourdough discard. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of olive oil. I've got 70 grams of whole wheat flour. I'm going to put it in my little bowl. I've got 70 grams of unbleached all-purpose flour. That's going in the bowl. I've got 1 tablespoon of herbes de Provence, and really you can use any kind of herbs you want. You can use rosemary, oregano, anything that suits your fancy, but I'm going to use herbes de Provence today. I have half a teaspoon of baking soda and half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to give these a little mix, just so when I add it, it's fairly well distributed. With my dough scraper, I'm going to mix my olive oil and my sourdough discard starter. You can use fresh starter too if you want, but this is a nice way to use up your discard. And it doesn't need to be newly discarded. It can be a month old and it will still work. So it's a lovely way to use it up. Okay, now I'm going to add my flour and herbs. I'm going to use my bowl scraper to mix it in because it can get quite sticky. I will pick it up towards the end and kind of knead it just ever so slightly, but right now it's going to be pretty sticky. It's getting a little bit stiff now, so what I'm going to do, I'm not going to use my bowl scraper anymore. I'm going to actually pick this up with my hands. I'm going to kind of knead it together with my hands. Okay, so what I want this to do is just kind of come together and not be so shaggy. I don't really need to do a lot of kneading as much as I just need it to come together as a little ball. Okay, now I'm going to kind of make it into a little bar. Now what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to encase this in plastic wrap. I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for minimum of 4 hours and up to 4 days. You want to wrap it nice and tight because you don't want any air getting into it while it's in the refrigerator overnight. And would that take us? 10 minutes? We're going to have crackers tomorrow. Okay, and we're back with the sourdough crackers. It's been in the refrigerator now over 24 hours. It's grown a little bit in size. Okay, this is going to it's going to make 2 cookie trays of crackers. So what I'm going to do first right off is I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to wrap this back up and put it in the refrigerator to stay a little bit chilled while I work the first group. The trick with a good sourdough cracker is you roll it as thin as you possibly can, about the size of a sesame seed. It's pretty hard to do. So there's a way I've figured out to do it a little bit easier. I'm going to cut this in half now. I'm going to set this one aside for the moment. Now I want this one, I'm going to use the Silpat because it doesn't slide all over the place when I'm rolling it out, and the crackers won't stick to it. So you can use parchment if you don't have a Silpat, but this is a lovely way to go to use that Silpat you bought years ago and never used. So I'm going to kind of roll it out ever so slightly. Okay, at this point I'm going to stop because I want some seeds on here. So I'm going to make a little mixture of sesame seeds and chia seeds. I don't put the chia seeds in the cracker because it's going to absorb a lot of liquid. I put them on the cracker, and that will keep it from absorbing a lot of the moisture out of the crackers. Okay, I'm going to just sprinkle this on. You can use any kinds of seeds you want. I happen to like chia seeds and sesame seeds, but you can use pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, flax seeds, caraway seeds. Okay, now I'm going to roll this as thin as a sesame seed, and that's the trick to a good cracker. So I've got my seeds on. I'm going to start gently. Now when you're using a rolling pin, you don't roll off the edge and you don't start on the edge. You start about halfway through and then you roll and you kind of pick it up towards the end. Okay, I want this to fill half of my sill pad. That's the goal. So the seeds I put on now are thinning out beautifully. I'm kind of working them into the cracker. So see how I'm not rolling it off the edge, because what I do is I'd end up with just a way too thin of a piece. Okay, I'm going to take my other one. I'm going to put it on. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to roll it out. Now, if I were to stop it here, this is not thin enough, okay? You're gonna think it is, and you're gonna think thinner is gonna be too thin, but you do need it thinner than this. You need to be almost the thickness of a sesame seed. Okay, so I'm gonna roll that a little thinner. And it's okay for them to touch while you're doing this. Okay. The next step is we're going to brush it with a little bit of water. The goal with this is I'm going to sprinkle on salt, and the water will keep the salt on the crackers while it's baking. You can also use oil, but I rather think I like water a little bit better. Okay, and the salt I'm going to use is a finishing salt. I'm going to use Muldon finishing salt. This is a salt that you put on things, not in things. So if you're making toffee, focaccia, things like that, this is the salt. You can use regular table salt if you want. This adds a little bit of pizzazz. It's not quite as salty as regular salt. And then I just kind of give it a little twist with my fingers, kind of just gently sprinkle it on. No, this is pretty coarse salt, and so I'm going to just kind of squeeze it between my fingers. Okay, that looks good. You don't need a lot. It's a finishing piece. Okay, and now you need a pizza cutter. I happen to have a pastry cutter. Now I don't really worry about perfectly sized crackers. If you do, you could kind of put a little ruler on there, and I did. I think the first time I put a ruler on there and made them perfect, and then after that nobody cared, they ate it anyway, so I'm just gonna, okay, you can make them any size you want. So if you're gonna have, let's say, cheese, you want a little bit bigger cracker, you can make a little bit bigger cracker. If you're gonna have just nibblers, you can make little nibblers. I'm gonna pick this up, I'm gonna put it in a cookie sheet. Okay, and I'm gonna pop this into the oven. It's a convection oven, so I'm really baking this at 340. I'm going to put it in there I'm going to check it in 14 minutes. And here we are, the finished product. You want to give it a little poke with your fingernail, make sure it's crispy. If it's a little bit kind of denting under your fingernail, just bake it another minute or longer. And you want to see the edges just slightly starting to brown. So these are ready to go. I put them in another little pan to cool, and then anything that didn't break apart, just go ahead and finish breaking them apart. Yeah, these only need to cool until they're cool. You can eat them right away. And there you have it, healthy and delicious homemade crackers. So here we are, sourdough crackers. Quick, easy, using up some of that discard that we ordinarily would have thrown away. There's lots of things you can do with your sourdough discard. Stay tuned, we'll have more ideas. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.